W5FC. ARRL NTS Net Mountley at 6:30 p.m. W5FC.
The countdown continues. 5 minutes until Skynet. This is KF5JHA. The countdown is 60 seconds until Skynet. Launch will begin in about 55 seconds. This is KF5JHA.
Dallas Racing's net, first and third Sunday, 8 p.m., W5FT.
Mr. Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
Sorry, there was a delay. Bob the cat wanted outside. Does anyone need to use a repeater before we begin the 9 p.m. net called Skynet? My name is Chaz. This is KF5JHA. I'll be your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs to become more familiar with the nighttime sky, daytime sky, astronomy, and space, and just those kind of things in general. This is a net that's open to all amateurs interested in this topic. We encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter this net at any time by using the pro sign, break, break, and then your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic at this time? This is a directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from the net control. Oh, that's me. And stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmissions, just like this. This is KF5JHA. If you didn't know, you're listening on 146.88 megahertz with a private line tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible with using W5FC-R station ID or the Echolink node 37247. Tonight's topics are astronomy charts, pictures, live audio, and video links are available online. Go to W5FC.org right now for the complete list. Remember to tell others about this popular net. We've got a YouTube channel. Yeah, go there. You can watch the video version of what's going on. All amateur radio operators are welcome. You need not be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. The net is about 90 minutes long, give or take a few minutes, and it's structured in several parts. Announcements, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, National Space Society events. Discussion topic of the evening was space exploration and space history, Constellation of the week, space launches of the week, recent astronomical discoveries, visible satellite passages over the next couple of days, or maybe the next week or so, and astronomical Q&A. Well, we might get to some, if not all of these, over the next 90 minutes or so. So, amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. Let's start with short time check-ins. Please come down with your call sign, slowly, phonetically, your name and where you're transmitting from if you are short time tonight.
Kilo India 5, Uniform Alpha Uniform, David and Mesquite.
David, a neighbor of mine, KI5UAU. Welcome to the net. Okay, well that was it for short time. How about low power? Low power check-ins. Come now. Slowly with your call sign, your name, and where you're transmitting from this evening. We're going to take it in groups of 3. So the first 3, please come in.
Kilo 5, Mike Charlie Delta, Cody in Dallas, low power.
Kilo 5, Mike Charlie Delta, Cody, Dallas, thank you so much. Okay, I guess that's for short time and low power. All right, general check-ins. Now, what I'd like to do is check in 3 at a time, because I don't do this very often. So my hand in my ears take a little bit of time to write everything down. So come now with your call sign, slowly, phonetically, your name, and where you're transmitting from. The first 3 people, come now, please.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony in Dallas.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Zulu Bravo Lima Bill, Farmers Branch.
This is Alpha Golf, 9 Sierra Golf, Antonio in Dallas.
All right, I've got the next 4 is what I've got, Tony and Tom. Tom, did you say you're from Dallas, not Louisville? Oh, well. And Bill and Antonio, thank you, those 4 people. The next 3 people, please come now with your call signs phonetically, slowly, your name and your location, please.
This is November 5, Oscar Foxtrot, Clay, your fellow neighbor in Mesquite.
November 5, Bravo Bravo, Bill in Irving.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Whiskey Victor Lima, James in Carrollton.
Thank you. We've got the next 3 people, Clay, another neighbor of mine, Bill in 5BB, and James, Carrollton. Thank you so much. All right, the next 3 people, come now with your call sign, your name, and your location. And call sign slowly, phonetically. Thank you. I appreciate that.
November Victor 5, Foxtrot, Virginia in Fort Worth.
Kilo Juliet 5, Charlie Golf Tango, James in Dallas.
This is Whiskey 5 Golf Uniform Sierra, Gus, far, far northeast Dallas.
Thank you, Gus. Hard to remember your call sign, K5GUS, yes. And James, you're James number 2 on the check-in list tonight. And Virginia, our neighbor in Fort Worth, okay. All right, the next 3 people, come now with your call sign, phonetically and slowly, your name and your location. We're up to 13 people so far.
Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima, Brenda in Dallas.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Echo India Uniform, David, St. Paul, Texas.
Brenda, I got your checked in. KG5 EUI. I didn't write down your name. Can you come back with your name, please?
Yeah, this is David, Kilo Golf 5, Echo India Uniform here in St. Paul, Texas.
Thanks for correcting me on your call sign. Thanks a lot, David. Okay, I'll let you check in now if you still like to check into Skynet. We're up to 15 people so far. Come now with your call sign phonetically, slowly, and your name and your location, please. All right, we'll skip over to Echolink. If you're on Echolink and would like to check in via audio, please come now with your call sign, your name, and your location, please.
Oh, Golf 5 Bravo Zulu Whiskey J near Weatherford.
Thank you, Jay. I've got you checked in. Rich, I'm putting you down since you're over there on Echolink. That would be AG 5 p.m. 5 p.m. All right. One last call for check-ins, and then we'll move on to the rest of Skynet.
Whiskey Alpha 5, Romeo Foxtrot Golf, Rollin, Pleasant Grove right at the moment, mobile.
I believe that was Carl. Okay, in Pleasant Grove. All right, let's continue on with Skynet. Let me get back to the script. Let me see, blah, 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 blah. That's what it says on the script. Yeah, no, it doesn't. It says something else on the script. Oh, do we have any announcements for this evening's set? It can be ham, astronomical, space, or general interest to license ham. Come now with your call sign if you'd like to make an announcement.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike.
Well, I should have checked into the earlier net because I started laughing when I heard Tony talking about the work that was done on the repeater and the antenna, and the crackling stopped. I thought he was talking about grackles. Tony, come now with your announcement, please.
Well, thank you. You know, grackles are more interesting birds than you think, but no, the crackling seems we put a lot of work in today. We replaced an antenna. We moved an antenna. We think we have corrected all the crackles, and we're going to make the repeater more sensitive on our next work party. Today was just fixing. Next work session will be improving, but I'm really today. We do, of course, have a lot of fun stuff coming up. This Monday is Ham Fixins. It's the only net I give a safety warning for. We're going to talk about recipes, cooking tips, and kitchen anecdotes. Eat before the net. Then you could even talk about the recipe you cooked. That's Monday at 7 p.m. This Tuesday is a Dallas Amateur Radio Club meeting night, and I am the presenter. I'm going to be talking about knots and ropes for amateur radio. What's the worst knot? The one knot that you probably will never need to use in amateur radio. What are the 2 or 3 best knots? Why shouldn't you buy rope from Home Depot? Because it's crap. Oh, wait. Oh, shoot. I short-circuited my presentation there. But please, come out and join us. More details at w5fc.org, but basically, 7 p.m., Dallas Medical Center, 3rd floor community room, main hospital building. Parking is free, and I will give you a rope and a chance to practice some fun knots. We also have a very interesting movie tonight, and the plot is very surprising. Tom had trained hard for his marathon. He was running strong, and he was tired and sore, but approaching the finish line. Unfortunately, there were a lot of runners who had trained less well who were stumbling. One of them fell down and got in the way, and there was a big clot. What an obstruction. But fortunately, Tom was not prone to two-dimensional thinking. He'd listened to Spock's advice. He activated his interdimensional warp function and levitated over the other runners without cutting the course. Nope, he finished on time and without getting obstructed. So join us tonight at 10:30 p.m., plus or minus 5 minutes. We'll be discussing Star Trek II, The Friends of Tom, an amazing movie that we happened to watch at Field Day this week. NT 5TM, back to net.
Johnny, thank you so much for conning us into that one. And please, show up to the meeting so you can be naughty with Tony. Okay, well, maybe I should stop with all the jokes already. We'll do some more jokes later on. You know, we have a lot of nets on this repeater. If you want to find out about those nets, go to w5fc.org, and then you can find that out. I'm not going to go through all those. I mean, we could talk about Skynet again, because it's one of the nets that's on this repeater. It's going on right now. And the Oscar Glow movie, well, that happens right after this one. Okay, 10:30 plus or minus a few minutes. All right, let me see. Blah, 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 blah. Let me see. You know, Tony, you've already given us the Afterglow information, so I'm going to skip over that one. I would normally let Tom do that, but he can talk about that maybe at another time, because you've done a fantastic job of that. Let me see. We need to see if we get some information from the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas. We usually call up on Chaz. I guess I don't call up on myself. All right. So, Slide Master, that would be Tom. The next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting, that would be slide number 1. Well, was actually held last night, and the meeting was held at 7:30 p.m. in person at the University of Texas, Dallas, and it was also held on Zoom. The featured speakers were Ian Lauer and Catherine Meechan. They're an astrophotographer and a painter. She's a painter, he's an astrophotographer. It was a wonderful program, and it was great seeing the differences between real photographs and paintings. Yes, she's primarily a painter. She likes oils, but sometimes she's more recently done some acrylics. Anyway, if you're a member, that meeting was recorded. You can go in and take a listen to that. Okay, Saturday night public observing stations continued. Skynet was picked to be on Saturday night, so there'd be an opportunity for live reports from the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas public observing sessions. Now, on the 5th Saturday of the month, there's no public observing sessions. There are on the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th Saturday nights, but on the 5th one, that only happens about 4 times a year. There isn't one. Now, you can check the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas website, texasastro.org, for up-to-date information and details about meetings and public observing sessions. All right, he's already checked in. Bill, N5BB, he's going to give us some news and items about the National Space Society events and activities. This is KF5JJ. It's yours, Bill.
Okay, very good, Chaz. This is N5BB, November 5, Bravo, Bravo. I happen to be the membership director of the North Texas chapter of the National Space Society. The National Space Society is a mostly United States, although it actually is international, group of people who are interested in human activities in space. This might be the Cassini probe. It might be Mars sample returns. It might be humans right now that are on the International Space Station that went up there in the Boeing capsule, which so far has not been released to come back down. Might be the Artemis program. NASA's and other countries are working on going back to the moon. It might be future Mars missions. So things that humans do in space are humans cause to happen in space, like robotic probes. Might be space stations that are going to replace the International Space Station. The National Space Society has one big yearly event. This is the International Space Development Conference. Last year, it was in Frisco, Texas, in late May. This year, it was in Los Angeles in late May. I was at both of those. Next year, it will be in Orlando, Florida, in June. The local chapter of the National Space Society is very active. Our local chapter won the award as the best chapter of the year in Los Angeles in late May. And we've won that award a number of times. So we do a lot of outreach. So one thing that's occurred yesterday is we sponsor, or I should say, an event, a social event about space every month called. This is N5BB. You do not have to be a member. You do not need to be a member of the society to visit our Space Rendezvous. It's a social event for people. It's just a dinner at Cheddar's Restaurant in Irving, where you can come in and talk to other people that are interested in things that humans do in space. Last night we had some of our regulars, as well as 2 new people. We have a meetup group, so a lot of people find us from the meetup group. One of the persons was an engineer that graduated from UT Dallas. The other one was she was an intern a few years ago at JPL in California, and she was involved with the mission to now I'm forgetting the name of it. I just mentioned it a moment ago. But one of the Saturn missions happened a few years ago. Anyway, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. Our next meeting of our local chapter will be our standard location, Spring Creek Barbecue in Irving. This is on the southwest corner of Highway 183 in Beltline, starting at 3:30 p.m. on the second Sunday of the month, which in July will be July the 14th. So far I do not know the subject, who will be speaker. Supposedly, it should be somebody from, probably from UT Dallas, involved with, in some way, with the National Society of Black Engineers, talking about aerospace things. But I don't know the name and the details of that meeting topic yet. Our group will also be active at Moon Day on July the 20th, Saturday. What is Moon Day? It is very close to the anniversary of when humans first landed on the moon in 1969. So, that's all I have for this evening. Thank you very much, Chaz. By the way, if you have any interest in National Space Society, our Space Rendezvous event, you can contact me at n5bb@arrl.net or space@byram.net, SPACE@BYROM, as in man, .net. Thank you, Chaz. This is N5BB in the news.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you so much about talking about Moon Day. Moon Day is actually on the anniversary date this year. This Saturday, July the 20th, is the anniversary. That's awesome. There's several people that'll be there. A lot of people from DARC there because there's a table, a booth for that, for amateur radio. Dr. Billy Cheek is going to be there. She is a presenter. I'm a presenter. Kelly Miller, one of our people on this net, she's going to have a table, I think, as usual. She's a NASA Solar System ambassador. So a lot of people that are familiar with Skynet are going to be at that event on July the 20th. Okay, it's time now for the featured topic that's picked out by the Net Control and usually presented by the Net Control. And so you have to put up with me for a little while. It was reported correctly that the topic tonight is light. I figured I'd ask all of you to go to the lamp that's close to your ham radio right now and turn it on because I want to enlighten you. Yes, I do have jokes with this. Slide Master, slide number 2. Our feature topic is about light. I thought it would be a bright idea. Light is needed for us to function and to live. About 70% of Americans actually learn best by visual sensations as opposed to auditory or kinesthetic. Light from the sun provides warmth and gives plants the energy to produce food. We use light to brighten the night so we can have activities. We put candles on our cakes to celebrate. We reflect light into devices to measure it and record it. If light just disappeared from the universe, I'm guessing all of us would go away soon after. Slide Master, slide number 3. Long ago, the stars were a fascination to most people. They're a fascination of me and probably a lot of people on this net right now. But among the fixed stars, there were 7 lights that moved compared to the background stars. We named them the Sun, the Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. From these 7 lights in the sky, we get the 7 days of the week. Did you know that? Could be an interesting trivia question sometime in the future. Slide Master, slide number 4. The light called the moon went through a change in shape that lasted around 29.5 days. So this is where we get the time of the month from. It really should not be a month, but it should be a month long, the phasing sequence. And this is KF5, JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 5, please. Okay, there's an interesting question here. So what is light? Now that is a good question and a bit hard to answer. Light has a couple of kinds of properties. It can act like a wave and it also can act like a particle at the same time. Is it a wave or a particle? My hypothesis is that light is neither a wave nor a particle, but is something entirely different. But light has both of these properties and characteristics. You can debate that. Slide Master, slide number 6. Let me explain about the wave characteristics of light. All of us have seen waves on water. Waves travel in a direction. We can start a wave by pushing water with our hands or throwing a rock into water. So the water can bunch up and be taller in some spots. We call this well, and also lower in other slots. The higher parts we call crests, and the lower parts we call troughs. Slide master, slide number 7, please. Now, the next time you watch a weather report on TV, look at the weather map for the H's and the L's. The H's represent high places in our atmosphere with higher pressure, and the L's represent the lower places in our atmosphere with less pressure. Our atmosphere acts like a giant wave tank. So the H's and L's on the weather map showing the waves in our atmosphere. It's a good connection to make. Light has the same kind of property. All right, so slide master, slide number 8. Let's go back to the water idea. If you can create a wave in water of a swimming pool, and a friend creates waves in a different part of the pool at the same time, then the waves can interact with each other. When a wave crest from you runs into a wave crest from your friend, they can add up and the wave gets bigger. When the troughs interact with each other, they get deeper. What happens when a wave crest meets a trough? That's kind of interesting. The wave and the trough actually cancel each other out as long as they're the same size. The adding to and canceling out of waves is called constructive and destructive interference. And once again, this is KF5, JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide master, slide number 9. Now, this thing that happens with weather also happens with light. Light can intensify and cancel itself out with constructive and destructive interference. We consider the property of light by using a single monochrome, meaning the same color, light source, and 2 closely spaced slits. You can see the pattern of light that makes when there's bright areas and dark areas on either side of the main light going through the slits. So this is just one proof that light acts like a wave. Now, there are other experiments that can prove that light is a wave as well, but let's go on to particles. Slide master, slide number 10. Light can be described as a particle tube. When light strikes some materials, it can knock an electron out of its orbital shell and to a higher energy level. If just the right energy of light hits the electron, it could knock it completely away from the atom that it's orbiting. The electron can flow from one place to another, causing electricity. This is called the photoelectric effect, and the evidence for light being a particle. Again, there are other experiments that indicate that light is a particle nature as well, but we'll talk about maybe other things now. This is KF5, JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide master, slide number 11. Slide can be bent, bounced, and blocked. Well, there are 2 kinds of bending of light. One's called refraction, and the other one's called diffraction. Refraction happens when light goes from one type of material, often called a medium, to another type of material, like from water to air or from air to glass. The light changes direction just a bit, but the amount of bending depends on the energy of the light. Lower energies bend more light, like red light, and higher energies bend less light, like purple light. Back more than 400 years ago, people realized that by using glass to bend light, they could focus the light and make glasses to improve eyesight. And also with 2 pieces of polished glass called lenses, you could make a device to magnify distant objects, and we call that a telescope. Slide number 12. There's another kind of bending called diffraction. This happens when light travels close to an object. It bends just a little bit, but enough where we can detect it if we have the right equipment. Slide master, slide number 13. Bouncing is also called reflection. We use a mirror to do that, but the surface of water or liquid mercury or even some polished glass will also do the same trick. Sir Isaac Newton figured out that you could create a curved mirror that could collect light like a lens, and he invented the first reflecting telescope using mirrors, and we named that type of telescope after him, called the Newtonian telescope. And this is KF5, JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 14. Alright, maybe you've not heard anything new over the last few minutes, but these are basics for the discovery. You see, we can use something called diffraction grating to bend the light coming from a distant object. What elements that this object has. So what it's made out of. Each element has its own fingerprint of its spectrum. So we can tell if the object is made of. Also, if the lines of light are called emission lines, if they've shifted one way or another, then we can tell if the object is moving toward us or away from us. Shifted toward the red, it's moving away from us, sort of like the red light on the taillights of a car. If it's heading toward us, it's shifted toward the blue, sort of like those new blue headlights on cars. If the emission lines are shifted, I already just did that. Let's see. Slide Master, slide number 15, please. If the light is blocked, then something must be in between us and the object. If the light is only partially blocked, then either the object is between us, it's covering it up just a little bit, or the distance object is bigger and the closer object is smaller. It doesn't block out all the object light that's in the distance. Slide Master, slide number 16. Astronomers use all of this information to figure out lots of things. In the past, we used just our eyes looking through a telescope, but now we use chemicals on glass, call that film, but not too much of that around. Now we use spectro-electronic detectors like CCDs and store the data on computers. This is KF5, JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 17. All right. So what do we find out from light? We won't go into details about that, but we can figure out how far away the object is. We can figure out if the object, again, is moving toward us or away from us, and at what speed. Are the smaller objects blocking the light from distant objects, like stars? Or maybe a planet revolving around a star? Or maybe the moon blocking out the light from a planet? We can tell how hot the star is. We can tell how old the star is. We can tell the total lifetime of the star will be and when it'll die. Slide Master, slide number 18. Astronomers are misers when it comes to light. We squeeze all the information that we can from an object, and then over time we figure out how to find out more information from that single beam of light. Okay, so I hope I've enlightened you. Now go to that lamp that's close to your radio and turn it off. That way, I've delighted you too. And this is KF5, JHA, and this is Skynet. Okay, do any of you out there have any questions or need a fill on any of the information on our featured topic tonight? Come now with a call sign if you have a question or need a fill. In future sessions of Skynet, we'll go into detail about how we find out how far away objects are using that beam of light. Okay. Let's see now. Are there any other people that would like to check in that have not checked into Skynet? Come now with your call sign phonetically, slowly, your name and your location if you'd like to check in for this session of Skynet.
W5GUS, recheck.
Gus, and far, far northeast Dallas. What do you need?
Well, thank you, Chaz. W5GUS here. There was a blurb on television today. I caught about there was a meteor that supposedly went between Earth and the Moon sometime today, and I was wondering if they said that one might be able to see that this evening. But anyway, I was just curious to know about that. W5GUS.
Well, believe it or not, on a regular basis, we have asteroids coming closer to us than the moon. About, on average, about once every month, we've got one that comes between us and the moon. Most of the time, they're kind of small, and even if they get that close to us, we can't see them unless we use high-powered telescopes to be able to see them. Now, I don't know about tonight. I'll take a look and see if I can figure that out. I use something called spaceweather.com. It has the predictions of the closest, 2,000 asteroids that might be coming close to the Earth over a period of time. I just brought it up. Let me see what I can find. Pardon me for just a minute. Scanning, scrolling down to the location where it is. Once again, this is spaceweather.com. Wonderful place to go to every day if you'd like to do that. Let me see. Today's the 29th. Oh, yeah. Coming only 2/10 of the distance between us and the moon. It's not very big, though. It's only 5 meters across. So the size of a car, that's it. It's not going to be bright enough for us to see with our 2 eyes. In fact, the biggest telescopes on the Earth might just barely be able to see it. You'd have to do some imaging to be able to see it. Does that help you with your information, Gus?
It sure does, Chaz. Chaz, thank you for checking on that and the asteroid. Yeah, and I imagine you'd have to be swinging that big telescope pretty quickly as the asteroid zooms on by. I'll check out space weather also. Thanks a lot. W5GUS, back to you, Chaz.
A comment is BB.
Much for coming forth with that question. And we encourage lots of people on this repeater to come up with questions, because maybe we can come up with an answer. Maybe you've stumped the astronomer. Yes, my degree's in astrophysics, so I like to get questions.
A comment is BB.
Mr. Bill, please, what's your comment?
On Thursday, a much larger asteroid, it was 2.3 kilometers in diameter, but it flew by, but it was much further away from the Earth. It was, quote, near Earth, unquote, but much further away than that one. And even though it was much larger, you needed a pretty good telescope to see it in 5BB.
Yep, that's on the list too. So yeah, go to spaceweather.com, scroll down the page a little bit, about halfway down the page, and it talks about the 2,349 potentially hazardous asteroids that can potentially hit the Earth sometime in, well, the next couple thousand years. Okay. Thank you so much, Bill. Okay, let me see. Where are we in Skynet? Oh, we have to go to Was Up. That would be done by Chaz. Oh, that's me. So we call this segment of Skynet Was Up because it's all about what's going on astronomically over the next couple of weeks and beyond. That was slide number 19, Slide Master. Slide number 20, please. On June the 28th, that was just yesterday, the moon was at its third quarter. So the current phase of the moon is a waning crescent. On July the 5th, the moon will be new. On July the 12th, the moon is at apogee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is furthest from the Earth at a distance of 404,362 kilometers. On July the 13th, the moon's phase is first quarter. The moon is full on July the 21st. On July the 24th, the moon is at perigee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is closest to the Earth at a distance of 364,917 kilometers. Slide Master, slide number 21, please. All right, if you get up early in the morning on Monday, July the 1st, oh, this is slide 21, yes. If you get up early in the morning on July the 1st, Monday, the moon and Mars will be in conjunction in the early morning eastern sky. The very next morning on July the 2nd, the moon, the planet Uranus, and the Pleiades star cluster will be in conjunction in the early morning sky. Now, if you've not hit July, it'll be really interesting to see around July the 15th. Well, we'll talk about that next week on the next week's version of Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 23. On the morning of July the 3rd, just the next morning, the moon and Jupiter will be in conjunction in the early morning sky. Now, if you take a look on July the 6th, this is slide number 24. Low in the northwestern evening sky, there's a conjunction of the moon and the planet Venus. Now, this is going to mean strong twilight. You'll probably need a pair of binoculars to be able to pull out the thin crescent moon and see the planet Venus. Slide Master, slide number 25. And the next evening, on July the 7th, low in the northwestern evening sky, there's a conjunction of the moon, the planet Mercury, the asteroid Vesta, and the star cluster M44, also known as the Beehive star cluster. Now, you'll need, again, the binoculars to see M44 and Vesta. You might need it to see Mercury. You'll probably be able to see the crescent moon. That'll be your guide to be able to find the rest of them. If you're looking at the video version of Skynet, there's pictures right there that show you what the orientations of them are. And this is KF5, JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 26. Once again, do any of you out there in radio land have any questions or maybe need a fill on the information? Maybe just have a general astronomy question. Come now with your call sign if you have a question or need a fill. Okay, I didn't hear anything, so slide master, slide number 27. So as the moon wanes, so do these words for this segment of Skynet. Stay safe, keep well, pray for our world. It's the only one where humans live. Until next time, actually I'll be doing another segment on Skynet in a few minutes. Keep looking up so you know what's up. And so that's that segment. We have another segment on space exploration and space history. It's done by Brenda usually, or sometimes Kelly, I believe. But I believe tonight, Tom's going to be reading the write-up that Kelly provided. Tom, KE5ICX. It's up to you. I had to switch glasses so I could read along with you on the script because it is fine print. Aren't you glad I put my segments in a 12-point font? So, yeah, absolutely. Let's see now. I forgot to do a check-in. Let's do a check-in. If you have not checked into Skynet and you'd like to do so, you come now with your call sign and your name and your location. With your call sign, please do it phonetically and slowly so I can write it down. So if you'd like to check in, please come now.
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, Sean, Fort Worth.
Sean, welcome to Skynet. I believe you're one of the regulars that we have here on Skynet. Oh, I wanted to let all of you know, KI5GBT Chris over on Echolink was here and has gone. I don't see him on there now, I don't believe. Oh, he's back. Chris, I've got you checked in. Just thought I'd let you know Clay's over there, but Clay's already checked in. Jay's checked in. Okay, I think we've got everyone checked in over on Echolink. All right, so this segment is Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. And once again, Chaz does this segment, so I have to talk to myself about this. Slide Master, that would be Tom. Tom's our Slide Master. Slide Master, slide number 28. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week is named in honor of Silent Key Carolyn, KC5OZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week, almost from its beginning in 2012 till May of 2019, with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Now, since there's about 52 easily visible constellations seen over Texas throughout the year, out of the 88 total number of constellations, so Miss Carolyn covered the entire sky as seen over North Texas in about a year. And in her honor, we've continued that tradition of a constellation per week and named this segment after her. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week this week is Hercules, the strong man. Now, Hercules is the son of the god Zeus and a mortal mother. He's best known for his 12 labors, which was almost impossible list of things he was required to do. Hera, who had tried to kill Hercules ever since he was born, induced a madness in him that made him kill his wife and children. Hercules went to the Oracle of Delphi to atone. He prayed to the god Apollo for guidance and was told to serve the king Argos for 10 years. During that time, he was sent to perform a series of 12 different feats called labors. To this day, an almost impossible task is called a Herculean task. You can look at more details about that story and more in Edith Hamilton's book on mythology. That's what I grew up in high school. Anyway, Slide Master, slide number 29, the jokes of the week. Here we go. Why is Hercules the most suitable midwife out of all the demigods? Because he's already been through 12 labors. Oh, get it. Come on, midwife? Okay, fine. What do you call a female Hercules? A Hemicles. See, Hercules is a guy and a Hemicles could be the female person. Okay, if I have to explain them, they're no good. What do you call Hercules if he were one of the 7 dwarfs? How about Hemosnes? What is Hercules' favorite car? Mercedes. Everyone cheered when Hercules cleaned the Aegean stables. Come on, fill in the blank. Everyone cheered when Hercules cleaned out the Aegean stables. Well, everyone except the people living downstream. What motivated Hercules to face off against Cerberus? Someone triple dog dared him. Okay, if you don't know the myths, you don't get this. Slide Master, slide number 30, please. SZ Hercules is a variable star that ranges in brightness from 10.2 magnitude down to 12 magnitude. SZ Hercules brightness cycle repeats about every 16 hours. So you can collect a good portion of the brightness. Variability arises from the fact that it's a spectroscopic binary system. In other words, one star goes in front of the other one, and that's what dims it down. We talked about that in the last segment of this net, didn't we? The star S Hercules is another variable star, but with a much longer period of 307 days. S Hercules varies in brightness from 5.9 magnitude all the way down to 13.6 magnitude. Wow. Now, why am I talking about these variable stars? Well, there was a certain person that did this constellation of the week, and she was into variable stars a lot. We talked about her. We'll talk about her at the end of this segment of Skynet too. Alpha Hercules. This is a translation of Ahead of the Kneeler. Excuse me. Burnham's Celestial Handbook notes that Hercules is often depicted as kneeling in the act of stringing his great bow. Beautiful double star, Alpha Hercules is, with a reddish glow primary star and a bluish secondary star. With this color combination, it sort of imitates Alberio in some ways. Slide master, slide number 31. So, Charles Messier's list number 13 on his list, M13, it's the Great Globular Cluster in Hercules. One of the finest globular clusters north of the celestial sphere, if not the finest. Discovered by Edmund Halley in 1714, and his first mention of an astronomical writings by him in the following year. Though M13 is visible to the unaided eye, the fact that it is not a single star was apparently not recognized or noticed until by Halley. Halley himself first noted the cluster shows itself as the naked eye when the sky is serene and the moon is absent. Messier himself thought that M13 was a nebula with a brighter center, as his small telescope could not resolve it into stars. If we lived outside of M13, the appearance of the heavens would be spectacular, an incomparable splendor. The heavens would be filled with uncountable numbers of blazing stars, which would dwarf our own star that's close to Sirius and Canopus, just insignificant. Many thousands of stars would range in brilliance between the brightness of Venus and the full moon, would be continually visible in the sky. So there would never really be any night on any of the planets in a globular cluster that would be in that system. It would never get dark. Slide master, slide number 32, please. M92, that would be 92 on Charles Messier's list of objects, is Hercules' other Messier object. Robert Burnham Jr. notes that M92 is a beautiful, rich globular cluster, which is almost any other constellation would be considered a major showpiece. But Hercules has, of course, M13, and that has overshadowed M92. M92, like M13, is easily visible in binoculars or a finder scope. Eagle-eyed Stephen James O'Meara, in his book The Messier Objects, notes that he can see M92 without optical aid, and that one night he discovered that the two Hercules globular clusters can be simultaneously with the unaided eye. You've got to have really good eyesight to do that in a very, very dark sky. M92 is noticeably smaller than M13. Look at one in your telescope without changing eyepieces and slew over to the other, and you'll see that there's a size difference. M92 has a bright, dense core and appears oval in shape, slightly elongated to the north and to the south. And this is KF5JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide master, slide number 33. There are a few more Astronomical League observing program objects in the constellation of Hercules, the Strong Man. I've given you just a sampling of some of those objects. The Astronomical League has, at last count, 74 different observing programs, most of which have about 100 objects. If you observe just 10 different objects in an observing program each month, then you can earn an observing certificate and a pin in about a year from the Astronomical League. Slide Master, slide number 34, and that is Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week, Hercules the Strongman. I want to thank my friends Dave Hutchinson, Dennis Harwell, for their research and words on deep sky objects that I use, borrow, and steal for every Skynet. I also, at times, use the website constellation-guide.com for information. Now, next week, we'll take a look at Serpens, the snake. Yeah, there's a snake in the sky. Maybe there's more than one. We'll talk about that maybe next week, too. All right, that is it for the Constellation of the Week. So, Miss Carolyn did do a lot of variable star observing, and she did that through an organization called the American Association of Variable Star Observers, AAVSO. All right, the next segment of Skynet is called Space Launches for the Week. I think we're going to go back to Tom for that. KE5ICX, it's yours again. thank you for launching us into that, Tom. I'm going to have to look up BC4L configuration. I have no idea what that is. Okay, let me see. We've got recent astronomical discoveries. Brenda, WB5OZL. I think it's all yours. Take your time. We got plenty of time.
Thank you, Chaz. This is WB5OZL. This article is entitled New Class of Mars Quakes Reveals Daily Meteorite Strikes. An international team of researchers, co-led by ETH Zurich and Imperial College London, have derived the first estimate of global meteorite impacts on Mars using seismic data. Their findings indicate between 280 and 360 meteorites strike the planet each year, forming impact craters greater than 8 meters across. Geraldine Zinhausen, who co-led the study, commented, "This rate was about 5 times higher than the number estimated by orbital imagery alone. Aligned with orbital imagery, our findings demonstrate that seismology is an excellent tool for measuring impact rates." Using data from the seismometer deployed during the NASA InSight mission to Mars, researchers found that 6 seismic events recorded in the near proximity of the station had been previously identified as meteoric impacts, a process enabled by the recording of a specific acoustic atmospheric signal generated when meteorites enter the Martian atmosphere. Now, Zinhausen, ETH Zurich co-lead, Natalia Wojcicka, Imperial College London, and the research team have found that these 6 seismic events belong to a much larger group of Marsquakes, so-called very high frequency, or VF, events. The source process of these quakes occurs much faster than for a tectonic Marsquake of similar size. For a normal magnitude 3 quake on Mars takes several seconds, an impact-generated event of the same size takes only 2 seconds or less due to the hypervelocity of the collision. By analyzing Marsquake spectra, a further 80 Marsquakes were identified that are now thought to be caused by meteoroid strikes. The research quest began in December 2021, a year before accumulated dust on the solar panels put an end to the InSight mission, when a large distant quake recorded by the seismometer reverberated a broadband seismic signal throughout the planet. Remote sensing associated the quake with a 150-meter wide crater. To confirm, the InSight team partnered with Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, MRO, Contact Camera, CTX, to search for other fresh craters that would match the timing and location of the seismic events detected by InSight. The team's detective work paid off, and they were lucky to find a second fresh crater over 100 meters in diameter. Similar craters, however, formed when basketball-sized meteoroids strike the planet, which should be far more common, remained elusive. Now the number of meteorite strikes is newly estimated by the occurrence of these special high-frequency quakes. Approximately 17,000 meteorites fall to Earth each year, but unless they streak across the night sky, they are rarely noticed. Most meteors disintegrate as they enter Earth's atmosphere, but on Mars the atmosphere is 100 times thinner, leaving its surface exposed to larger and more frequent meteorite strikes. Until now, planetary scientists have relied on orbital images and models inferred from well-preserved meteorite impacts on the Moon, but extrapolating these estimates to Mars proved challenging. Scientists had to account for the stronger gravitational pull of Mars and its proximity to the asteroid belt, which both mean that more meteorites hit the red planet. On the other hand, regular sandstorms result in craters that are much less well-preserved than those on the Moon, and therefore not as easily detected with orbital imagery. When a meteorite strikes the planet, the seismic waves of the impact travel through the crust and mantle and can be picked up by seismometers. Wojcicki explains, we've estimated crater diameters from the magnitude of all the VF Mars quakes and their distances, then used it to calculate how many craters formed around the InSight lander over the course of a year. We then extrapolated this data to estimate the number of impacts that happen annually on the whole surface of Mars. Zenhausen adds, while new craters can best be seen on flat and dusty terrain where they really stand out, this type of terrain covers less than half the surface of Mars. The sensitive InSight seismometer, however, could hear every single impact within the lander's range. Much like the lines and wrinkles on our face, the size and density of craters from meteorite strikes reveal clues about the age of different regions of a planetary body. The less craters, the younger the region of the planet. Venus, for example, has almost no visible craters because its surface is continually reworked by volcanism, while Mercury and the Moon, with their ancient surfaces, are heavily cratered. Mars falls in between these examples, with some old and some young regions that can be distinguished by the number of craters. New data shows an 8-meter crater happens somewhere on the surface of Mars nearly every day, and a 30-meter crater occurs about once a month. Since hypervelocity impacts cause blast zones that are easily 100 times larger in diameter than the crater, knowing the exact number of impacts is important for the safety of robotic, but also future human missions to the Red Planet. This is the first paper of its kind to determine how often meteorites impact the surface of Mars from seismological data, which was a Level 1 mission goal of the Mars InSight mission, says Domenico Giardini, professor of seismology and geodynamics at ETH Zurich and co-principal investigator for the NASA Mars InSight mission. Such data factors into the planning from future missions of Mars. This is from ScienceDaily.com. Back to Nat, WE5OZL.
There's a lot of stuff going on Mars, and hopefully we're going to have people there to actually observe some of this stuff sometime in the future. All right, let's see now. Number 10 on the list of different segments is visible satellite passages over the next couple of days. We usually send that to KE5ICX. I would call him the father of Skynet. It's up to you now. Thank you so much. Brenda, Tom, and Kelly did write up one of the pieces tonight. We've had a lot of fun here at Skynet. We'll have a couple of minutes left. I just thought I'd let you know, if you have not been watching the night sky above, you could see satellites easily. From Brookhaven campus of Dallas College, we have different ratings for light pollution, and the highest brightness in the sky is something called Bortle 9, and that's what Brookhaven campus is. It's one of the highest light polluted areas in the Metroplex. And believe it or not, from there I've seen the Hubble Space Satellite, ISS, Tingong. There's been several different satellites we've seen from there. So you can do this. All you have to do is go to heaven-above.com and put in your latitude, longitude, and you can get the information to your location. So that's kind of cool. All right, so do we have any last-minute questions, or do we have any last-minute check-ins? Come now with your call sign. If you're checking in, I need your call sign, your name, and your location. Well, hearing nothing, I guess this is the closing. So tonight we had 20 hams that checked into Skynet. Thank you for all who checked in this evening. We hope you've enjoyed us here, and join us here next week and every Saturday night from 9 p.m.
I'm completely operational, and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
Space explorations on this net. The sky is never the limit. Now, we're looking for net controls for this net and for other DARC nets. Hey, if I can do this, you can do this too. If you'd like to try your hand at it, you can contact Net Controls by sending an email to nets@w5sd.org. You can follow topics and discussions about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and X, as well as the audio and video streams, video archives, and other useful internet information by going to w5sd.org at the conclusion of this net. So until next Saturday night, this is KF5JHA Chaz. And I'll be closing this net at 10:30 and 15 seconds local time and returning the repeater back to normal amateur use. 73, everyone. Enjoy the evening discovering the universe. Go look out in the sky when it's clear. Good night. Oh, I should ask if Tom would like to say when the start of the next net is going to be. I didn't realize it was a movie called The Friends of Tom. I needed to get Tony's write-up of The Friends of Tom. That was awesome. This is KF5JHA.
Skynet 5, Echo Yankee Kilo. Alex from Allen, and yes, I saw the movie.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony and Dallas. I didn't see the director's cut, but I have seen the movie.
Alpha, India 5, Quebec Echo in Uptown. I'm watching it now and have seen it many times. Over.
November Victor 5, Foxtrot, Virginia in Fort Worth. I have seen this movie a bunch of times.
Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima. Brenda, of course I saw it. What kind of Trekkie would I be if I hadn't seen it many times?
Golf 5, Bravo Zulu Whiskey, J near Weatherford. I did not see the movie this week, but of course I've seen it a number of times.
You know, I really enjoyed it. I remember the first film, and I watched the original series. This was worlds better than the first film. I like the fact that they brought Khan back. He's a recurring character in the series. It was a lot better in a lot of ways. I enjoyed it. It was a lot like the TV series in a way, so it was done really well. I don't have very many bad things to say about it, so I really did enjoy the film. I remember seeing it as a kid, and it was, for us geeks, it was the equivalent of Old Yeller because everybody cried when Spock died.
KJ5, EYK, back to the net.
Well, thank you, Tom, and good evening, and of course I liked it. It's just about as long as Star Trek the Motion Picture, but yes, unlike Star Trek the Motion Picture, it has a much brisker rising action. It's much more like reading an adventure story. It starts off with character development and setting the scene, and then the conflict begins, and the pace rises, and really it gets brisker and brisker as it goes along, and then we have a very emotional resolution. So it's a much better crafted plot than Star Trek 1, and yeah, the shape of the pace is just so much more enjoyable. It starts slow like everything does, but then we just can't let go. I was busy and had to leave the field day site, I have never seen the director's cut of this. And there are certain parts of the plot of this movie that have never made sense to me. Yes, the dead person who appears on the bridge. Why did you do that, Scotty? That never, it's like, it was kind of incoherent. Likewise, the very first time I saw this movie when I was, much younger, I couldn't, Spock sacrifices his life to do something. Take the cork out of the champagne bottle and stick your hands in the fountain of radioactive champagne and then put the cork back on. That was clearly very important, but that it never made any sense to me. It still doesn't. I just have to accept that for some reason I do not understand. It's very important. Perhaps he had to turn the garden hose off or something. So, yep, good plot, good plot. I'll talk about characters and the wonderful music later. NT5TM.
I would say, like almost probably everyone on this net tonight, I've seen every episode of all the original Star Trek, all the Next Generation, and Enterprise. I stopped watching after that, but just because I didn't have time. And I think it's just fantastic. I just love this particular movie. I think that about the plot, the fact that they interjected so many complexities into it, which was unusual. They had the earwig on the set of 6 or whatever it was. They had the Kirk's wife. They had Kirk's son. They had the Genesis Project. They had Ricardo Montalban, who was fantastic. We'll talk about later. I just think it was really rich. I mean, if you look at it by minute, there's probably more big plot moments in this movie than any other Star Trek. First Contact's probably my favorite of all time, but this is just a great movie, and I think the plot was fantastic.
Thank you, Tom. Well, I think it might have been, even though it seems redundant, might not have been a bad idea for you to read the plot, because I think we sort of take for granted that we've got this movie all understood and sorted out, and we see it so many times that I think a lot of times we just watch it without really paying attention to the plot because we're waiting for our favorite moments, and then the moments that it's the most fun to make fun of. I think the plot to this is interesting in that director Nick Meyer wrote the screenplay, and he wrote it from several other scripts that each had kind of those moments that writers unfortunately get kind of attached to. Oh, well, there's this certain scene we want to have. You know, I wrote this scene, it's awesome. We need to so he had to come up with like how to synthesize a bunch of different sort of moments that they kind of wanted to have in the movie, and he did a really good job. There's actually a really cool documentary series. It has been available on Prime. I don't know if it's on there right now, but it's by the Nacelle Films, who's done a lot of cool sort of pop culture documentary things, and it's called The Center Seat, and it's the whole kind of story of Star Trek in like a 12-part documentary thing. And the episode on Star Trek 2 is pretty cool. Yeah, the thing around Spock dying is, I think it is interesting that at the very beginning of the movie, they have him sort of fake die in the Kobayashi Maru simulation, which kind of sets up some other characters and kind of the tone of the movie, and kind of gets us back into sort of the world of Star Trek, kind of getting us out of where the motion picture took us into that kind of like trippy world that is, you know, reminiscent of a certain science fiction movie from the 60s that I won't say the name of. And I like that. I like how it starts, and they had kind of a Spock fake dying in it, and I think the idea was to fake out fans, because by the time the movie was being made, the fans all knew that Spock was supposed to die, and they were going to think, oh, he doesn't really die. They just make it like they fake it like he dies, and then he doesn't, and then we can sort of relax for the rest of the movie, so the death at the end can be kind of a surprise, which, you know, if you haven't ever seen the movie, it kind of is. I remember the first time I really sat all the way through this, and even the other night when I watched it, the scene with Spock dying still brings me to tears. Leonard Nimoy did want to end his career as Spock. Fans, there were people threatening Paramount, like there were people threatening producers and people involved with Star Trek in very terrible ways, and it makes you wonder, like, have these people seen Star Trek? They claim to be Star Trek fans, but they're being kind of ugly about this. But apparently, after they shot the death scene, Leonard Nimoy kind of got cold feet about Spock dying, and the producers kind of made Nick Meyer shoot the scene with the Spock's casket torpedo on the surface of Genesis, and they also retroactively shot the insert where Spock sort of mind melds with McCoy, who he's already like knocked out. And Nick Meyer hated that. He actually wanted Spock to be dead. He still feels that way. I saw an interview with him on a podcast that my friend was on a few weeks ago, and he still kind of holds his position that he did not like that they changed that. It took the gravitas out of Spock actually dying. But it's neither here nor there. It's still a great movie. It's fun to see, you know, Khan again. They did a pretty good job of like continuing the plot of Khan and the Botany Bay and the genetically altered super guys. Let's see. I did like the Carol Marcus and David Marcus, and I liked that aspect of Kirk, like meeting his son. It really did. It had like a whole lot of just really great Star Trek moments, the scary parts. I think a good science fiction movie doesn't have to, but it's really cool when they can work in something kind of scary or kind of spooky without it being so like Alien or something, where it's just all like, you know, where you're just kind of anxiety the whole time. I like that they can work in a little bit of spooky and kind of scary and still have it be Star Trek. And the interesting thing, and, you know, it's been pointed out over and over, but the interesting thing about the plot is that Khan and Kirk never meet in person in this one. But it is a very, like, you know, most dangerous game sort of plot, and a, you know, an intellectual battle of the wills and the minds. So yeah, I love this movie. It still looks great. It's still fun to watch. The pacing's great. The plot is interesting. There are things that fill in the holes, like Tony said. Explain that kid who died in the warp core accident was Scotty's relative, and that's why Scotty was so upset about it. I think he's like his nephew. Anyways, good movie, good plot. I do like that Spock wasn't dead, you know, after all, but we don't find that out till the next movie. And I think it would have been a great movie without that. Room for Spock to come back, but I understand because I love Spock, so I get it. NV5F. Tom, this is WB5OZL. Well, gee. When I saw Star Trek 1, well, it's okay, but it's not really Star Trek. And of course I saw it in the theater, first run. And then when they brought out this movie, I'm like, okay, Star Trek's back, all my favorite characters, it has the flavor and the tone of Star Trek, so I'm happy again. But then they killed off Spock, and I was just gutted. Cried in the funeral. I didn't know they were going to bring him back. Some of the... I wasn't involved in fandom at the time. Some people had heard rumors that they were. I hadn't heard those. And when they killed him off, I was just devastated. And so happy in the next one when they brought him back. I just... You know, the world became right again. I really question how they made this movie for $12 million. I just wonder what it would cost today to make this. So, you know, all these favorite characters, the thing just has such a wonderful, homey feel to it that it's, you know, it's just like coming home. They're here, they're back. And I love that. I don't have any real problems with the plot, like all movies. It has a few holes, but that's okay. And I love this movie. It's my second favorite Star Trek movie, right behind Star Trek 4. Thought I was going to say 5, didn't you? And it's just a wonderful feeling, and it's so unique. Some of the later movies, to me, kind of run together, and I can't remember which is which, but this one does not suffer from that. It's distinctive on its own. All right, back to Nat, WB5OZL.
This is KG5BZW. Well, I guess I'm into the maybe not unique. I don't know, because I know. I mean, I'm not necessarily the youngest person here, but I just know that I'm sorry, I may be getting a little bit off track here. It's kind of weird, just considering this movie, when actually the first Star Trek movie, the first I was actually able, cognizant of characters and stuff, was actually probably about Star Trek 3. So, watching this, I don't know when I got to watch Star Trek 2. Watching this, knowing that Spock died, I seem to recall, but kind of weird, just knowing that throughout the movie. I don't have the best recollection of the first time I've seen this. Yeah, I do recall it being pretty sad. The one thing, I knew I wasn't going to be able to say anything about, the quality of the plot and everything here because I hadn't watched it originally. And I do agree with those comments. Of course, Tom, you mentioned it in the intro about the three-dimensional thinking and all of that, and that's literally the dumbest part of this movie. Like, you're in space, of course you need to incorporate 3D thinking to do whatever, and it's just besides everything else, for some darn reason, that's just the one thing that sticks out, and it sticks out like a sore thumb. Everything else, there's a lot. This is a great Star Trek film. Don't get me wrong, but that literally, it's probably the first thing I always think of when I see this film. Even though, yes, there's like everything. Yes, that's all been said. The plot, the characters, it's all true, but I don't know why does the climax at the end of this one stupid point. Anyway, that's the end of my rant. KG5 BCW.
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, Sean in Fort Worth. Of course I've seen this film.
G5, Echo Bravo Bravo, David in Springtown. Yes, I saw it.
Yeah, this is KB9SLK. Well, of course, I think it's all been pretty well said, but yes, it was a really good plot, very enjoyable movie. It's one of those that I do remember seeing it in the theaters. My whole family happens to be uncles and cousins, and we always went and saw all four of them actually together, and everybody really enjoyed this one. This was, significantly better than the first one. But yeah, overall, pretty solid plot. Yes, There are a couple of tiny plot holes, but they are fairly small. Jay brought up one there that, yeah, is a little weak, you know, for a genius. Con was supposed to be not to think of that. And then, to me, you know, of course, I was the director's cut that answered a few of the other plot holes. The only one that I never really thought they really answered was, you know, the Genesis device was supposed to redevelop a planet, but yet there was no planet there. The planet was off in the distance, so I guess it took the nebula and converted it to a planet. But that's pretty minor. What was nice is what everybody's already said. There was multiple plot lines to this film. We obviously had the touching moments between, you know, Kurt, you know, meeting his son, you know, and then we had the subplot with, you know, the new crew, and then obviously the con, and it was just, you know, once again, this was a truly classic Star Trek kind of story. That it was more, yes, we had action in it, of course, but it was more of a thinking type show than, you know, the remakes that we've seen later when they tried to redo this film. Just complete disaster. And yeah, I agree, it's amazing what they made this movie on. It just shows you don't need to spend $350 million like they do today to make a film, to make a good film. It can be done. So yeah, that was, you know, it was just, once again, it was just well written. You know, it was almost perfect in that respect. And just overall fun movie, great pacing, which is always good. You know, even the director's cut, it wasn't too long. You know, even though it was, you know, a lot of times they say movies are too long. Well, this is a case where it wasn't. You know, there was enough story there to keep you going, and you wanted to see more. Like everybody, I was not happy about the ending. Spock died, but of course I'd heard the rumors, and then obviously after seeing the movie, them not explaining the scene of when, you know, he made contact with the doctor, you kind of had a hint that since they didn't say why they did it, they had to do with something there. People were pretty suspicious pretty quickly after that. So, of course, we all loved it. They brought him back later. I think it's kind of interesting that even, I believe there's inspiration taken from this for Picard Season 3. You know, we have where, obviously, Picard finds out about his son and, you know, reconnects with him. Then we also had the whole Nebula thing. So they're still taking inspiration from this movie, even as the series moves forward. And obviously this is a classic for many reasons. So, not a lot to add. Excellent movie. So it was fun to watch it again. Back to net. This is KB9SOK.
Tom. Well, this is from what I would consider the golden age of movies, around the late 70s, the early 80s, the late baby boomers and the early Gen Xers. That was the period of time where there's some really great movies that came out, and this is one of the best ones too. And speaking of two, the second in the saga, kind of analogous to Star Wars' second movie, The Empire Strikes Back. These were really good follow-ups to the original movie versions of those two sagas. Although I do also like First Contact from the Star Trek movie sagas. And it follows the trend of the even-numbered movies are usually the better ones. But this one, I can't remember exactly when I saw it, but I do know that I must have just been getting my permit license, driver's license, so that dates how old I am and how old this movie is. But it really stands up, and I enjoy watching it again and again. And it had great pacing, great action, and it's one of those movies you can always go back to and enjoy rewatching. W5EBB.
characterization, it was the original crew. What could you do with it? There were some highlights in there, though. A very young Christy Alley gave me mental fits. I was attracted to a space alien as a young man. But other than that, Ricardo Montalban, perfect casting. You know, the guy was in incredible shape. That really is Ricardo Montalban. There's no prosthetic. That's the way he was. I got to meet him many, many years ago when he did a reading of Don Juan DeMarco in Hell in Hollywood. I got to meet him and Anne Margaret and another actor I can't remember. I went to go see the reading and met them after. Incredible guy, super nice man. I haven't mentioned his character, and he laughed. He enjoyed this film. You know, I really enjoyed seeing the character development. I like seeing Kirk's son. I like seeing his wife, given some more depth. I like the things that they did as far as James Kirk and his apartment. You know, with a nautical theme. He had his things that he would do. They really brought some flavor to the character. You got to see more than what you ever saw in the television show back in the day. So I enjoyed that quite a bit. I seem to recall, I don't know if he ever really meant to kill Spock off or not. I think that's going to be a rumor of great debate, because without that pivotal character, you have no Star Trek. Without the Spock character, it's gone. There's nothing there. I don't think it was ever designed that way, but that's just the way it came out. So, well, you know, maybe they would have, maybe they wouldn't have, but thank goodness they didn't. But the characterization was really good. All in all, like I say, it's one of my favorite films. I'm going to go a little bit long here because I've got to get going, but hands down, absolutely positively, the best uniforms out of all of this series came out of Rathacon. They were the best uniforms. Later on, we were given the 21st or 50th century ahead of us, and everybody wore a romper. It was ridiculous. But I think those added to it. There were just so many good things to say about the way it was done, you know. KJ5, EYK, back to the net.
Many good things to say, but I'll try to keep it short. Yes, Ricardo Montalban. Oh, man. You know, heroes are always boring. A good villain is what makes a good story. You know, a good villain is everything. And he was just fascinating from just body language and voice and, I want to give him a hug or something. What a wonderful villain. And I loved the character of Carol Marcus. Too often in modern movies, you have like a 50-year-old Pierce Brosnan as James Bond having a relationship with a early 20-something Denise Richards. I guess that helps sell tickets, but it doesn't make any sense at all. He's an admiral. She was not young, but she was still glamorous and smart. That was a wonderful choice for his former lover. You could imagine this ambitious, successful guy having had a relationship with this ambitious, successful, brilliant scientist. So, wonderful character there. My biggest frustration with the characters, though, and this would have taken a writer of absolute brilliance, probably a whole team of writers, was they really missed a chance here to steer the Star Trek franchise in a more natural direction. Kirk had become an admiral. Spock was dead. People move through different stages in their career. They move on. They change jobs. I've been listening to a podcast a lot called The Space Above Us, and people work very hard to get to be an astronaut, but then after a while, you've mastered being an astronaut, you go do something else. You become a business executive or an underwater explorer. Or, people, no matter how brilliant they think they are, they move on because they realize, hey, I want to do something else now. These characters were well enough done that we really could have seen the next movie being a transition to a different generation. A next generation. It would have been actually very different from the series The Next Generation, but it would have been a great opportunity to begin transitioning roles and characters, and maybe Kirk can't get out of being an admiral. Maybe he can only fail upwards. Happens a lot in real life. So I think they missed out on that, but loved the movie as it was, just wish the whole series had gone in a different direction afterward. NT5TM.
I just think it was a really a great movie. I think Ricardo Montalban was almost the perfect anti-Kirk. He was as smart as Kirk. He was as macho as Kirk, and the two of them were probably the premier macho characters in the history of Star Trek. His whole open chest pectoral shirt was something I think Kirk would have liked to have worn. I think that his son was a little bit of a weenie. I don't mean that in a terrible way, but he was a little annoying. And his wife was, I thought, an excellent selection. I liked how she said James Kirk was many things, but never a Boy Scout, which was kind of a way of saying that Kirk was a lot of fun, and for her. And if you look at, I think the Aryans, kind of the almost the Nazi, and I don't mean that it's a shocking word, but in terms of Khan's crew, kind of all the blonde, blue-eyed Aryan sort of image was an interesting selection. I think that Spock was Spock. Let me break. I think DeForest Kelley was, he had a good show for him, because he was always a little frustrated. You know, I've got to tell you, in the Larry Sanders show, they interviewed William Shatner, and they said, see if you can get him to say Klingon. So they had him on a speakerphone, and they said, who was that you were always fighting with? And he said, well, DeForest Kelley and I never got along. And then later I read that was true, that DeForest Kelley felt like he was a pretty big actor because of all the TV he had done, movies, and he always felt a little bit slighted. But I thought he had his best showing of any of the movies. Spock was just Spock. I wouldn't say it was his best movie. It wasn't his worst movie. He was just who he was. And so anyway, I thought it was a really fun movie and really good acting. So AF5QE is back in that.
Okay, thank you. I do have thoughts. Well, I'm with Brenda. Star Trek 4 is my favorite. It's just funny, fun. It is actually the movie that got me interested in Star Trek. I didn't didn't see Star Trek until it was in reruns when I was younger, and I was always aware of it, but Star Trek 4 kind of was my gateway into Star Trek. Okay, I'm going to say something that might just, rub some people the wrong way. I don't mean to, but I've never been convinced that Kirstie Alley was a Vulcan. I just don't. Her hair, she had the 80s hair, and I just, I know it was her breakthrough role, and it's probably one of her most well-known roles, but I just never really felt like she never really struck me as a Vulcan. I just think there's a Vulcanness to, they could have maybe made her aesthetically more Vulcan. I don't know. I've just never really been that impressed with her. Let's see, I've got notes here, so now I'm squinting at them, and I'm trying to read them. Ricardo Montalban in this, and Khan, it's interesting that this never comes, we all have, most of us have access in some way, or have had over the years, seen the old shows over and over, and they seem to have completely glossed over in this movie the fact that Khan, Noonien Singh, is a very Asian moniker, and that he played an Asian character in the original series. He had the hairdo, he had the clothes, and of course now he's been on SETI Alpha 5 for however long, and they've kind of made do, and so clothes and hairdos are out the window, but they didn't even really acknowledge anything of his original cultural heritage, which I thought was interesting. So I don't see where Aryan anything comes into it. His kind of second in command guy looked kind of Aryan, but Ricardo Montalban doesn't, he doesn't strike me as that at all. They were kind of a superior sort of race in their own minds because they had been genetically altered, but I don't think there was anything about a specific appearance that came into play. It was more of about intellect and strength and all that. So, but good acting. He's convincing as that character, and he reprised that role with a very different look. But also, it wasn't really ever brought up that his wife, who was killed, was that, I can't remember the lady's name, but in the plot of the Space Seed, I believe is the name of the episode, he takes a wife from the crew of the Enterprise. This gal in the crew kind of falls for him and ends up going with him. And they don't really say that, but I guess Star Trek fans pretty much know that. Walter Koenig as Chekhov is. He had a pivotal role in this one. He kind of complained that he didn't have much to do in the first movie, but he had a pretty pivotal role, and he actually had to do some acting where he was having to still be lying and under the influence of the brain worm or whatever, but he was acting like, oh, we beat Khan and we're your friends now, and I thought that was kind of interesting, and I thought that came out pretty good. Let's see, what else do I have here? I don't believe that Carol Marcus was ever Kirk's wife. She did bear a son by him, but I do not believe they were ever married. And let's see, what else do I have? Oh, DeForest Kelley, yeah, he was a big deal in Westerns. He was a bad guy in a lot of Westerns. So when he got into Star Trek, he had to kind of buck this image of, the bad guy image, and one of the things in the documentary series they said was to help him buck that image was they basically gave him a JFK haircut, and I didn't know from his other acting jobs, so to me he's just Dr. McCoy, and I love him. He's one of my favorites and I like how practical and down to earth he is. He's always great The whole crew in here is great. Uhura's great. I always love Uhura. She's fantastic. And Mr. Spock, yeah, he was Mr. Spock. He was supposed to die in this. Nick Meyer wrote the script where he was supposed to die. That was the order of the day from Leonard Nimoy. I don't want to be Spock anymore. And the studio got cold feet, and Leonard Nimoy got cold feet, and they did retroactively add the room for a sequel shots, the world's fastest mind meld, and the obvious, let's show the torpedo casket, on Genesis to kind of hint at, there could be another one of these. I appreciate Tony's honesty about how he kind of wished this could have led the crew in a different direction. Star Trek 3, this kind of pulled them out of their kind of nosedive from motion picture, and then Star Trek 3, I guess, sort of righted them into a path, towards more movies. I do love that we got Star Trek 4. Search for Spock to me, it was more like, if you don't count the motion picture, Search for Spock is kind of like The Empire Strikes Back. It's kind of between 2 and 4. It kind of gets them from one place to another, and it definitely has a good ending where you know what's going on and Spock is back. But yeah, I like that idea that what if Kirk had stayed an admiral and Spock had not come back from the dead? But I do kind of like how they got Kirk out of being an admiral, because I do think sometimes you can be promoted to an upper management kind of thing, and you really don't need a promotion just because of seniority. You really are doing your best. You're living your best life at whatever job you're doing, and I think it's okay to refuse a promotion and stay with what you're doing because it's just kind of what you're made for. And I appreciate people who do that, who go, you know what, I'm right where I need to be. I don't need more clout or more money or more perceived importance or influence. I want to be doing what I'm doing, and so I kind of like the spin that they spun everything around, and they had to answer for their quote unquote crimes in the second and third movies, and Kirk was just bumped down to captain, and I thought that was kind of clever. But anyway, we're talking about the movies. Anyway, I'll be done. NV5F. WB5OZL. I think we're all in a lot of agreement on things here. I didn't think that Kirk's son, there was just something obnoxious about him. I just never could warm up to him, and I don't know why. And I think, I agree with Virginia. I don't think he and Carol Marcus ever got married. You get the impression that he never had anything to do with his son, and they were estranged from long ago. Khan is wonderful in this. Just absolutely wonderful. I was horrified when they put up Benedict Cumberbatch as I couldn't see it, although now I'm a huge fan of his, watch everything he's in. But I still kind of don't see him as Khan because I can't get Clara Malsbon out of my head. He will always embody Khan, and nobody else could do it. He just makes the character. He's just so perfect. Such a wonderful actor. And it's an interesting character also. He's a bad guy, but there's some justification for some things he did, and he doesn't think he's a bad guy, obviously. So
let's see. What else can I say? I don't want to beat this horse too much. I think I would just be dittoing what other people have said, so I'll turn it back. WP50ZL.
This is KQ5PZW. I don't really have much to say here. What I had thought of something to say, but it's actually in relation to other films. I know others that have commented on, but I feel like I don't have much really else to say. It just feels a little bit too off the track. Sorry, I'm even though this whole ramble here seems a little bit derailed. So, I don't know. I really don't have anything. My apologies, but hand it to the next person. KQ5PZW.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Yeah, I agree with what everybody said. You know, it was, of course, awesome to see the original crew. You know, they were able to do their characters. You know, it really does feel like Star Trek. They didn't vary much from that. As everyone said, Khan was awesome. Yeah, I do like, you know, Kirk's ex. Thought she was, you know, played it well. Seemed to be an absolute perfect fit. I agree. The son's tantrums were starting to get a bit old, supposedly for a very smart young man that was a scientist. He wasn't really acting like it. So yeah, he did get a little annoying. And I do think it's, and I do agree with Virginia that I wasn't actually that impressed with Christy Alley's take on the Vulcan either. I thought it was just, it was okay. It was barely passable. Thought it could have been better. You know, in the series Enterprise, we had the, her name's escaping me at the moment, the Vulcan they had on that ship, the mannerisms. So yeah, I actually do agree with you on that. So yeah, overall, though the characters were good, you know, once again, you know, the storyline is really what made this. You know, I touched on it earlier. Tom expanded upon it. You know, we talk about these Marvel movies that are 350 million, and even in the past couple of years, those are starting to lose a ton of money, and everybody's complaining the same thing. There's no story. The stories just aren't good. So even in that world, with the massive fan base, they're losing money. You know, everybody wants a good story, so you don't need to spend all that money. You know, just write good stories. And yeah, I kind of agree. Some of the best movies were written, you know, between the 60s and the 90s. I mean, we've had a few gems, obviously, since then, but yeah, we need some unique ideals, some new life breathed into these. And Tony, yeah, you make a good point too. It might have been interesting to see what adventures they could have got into as they got promoted and moved on. But I also agree too, sometimes that isn't always the best for people to get promoted. So yeah, now all in all, enjoyed this one, and yeah, curious to see. I'm sure this third round will be fun too. Back to net, KB9SOK.
I agree, of course, with everybody that Ricardo did a great job reviving his TV character Khan it was like not a day passed. I mean, he just fell right back into that role and was really great in the movie. Now, as for his character, and he exhibits this very well, his pride and arrogance and obsession for retribution was his true enemy, not Kirk, and that was ultimately his undoing. Kirstie Alley, hey, if Denise Crosby can pull off a TV Romulan, I think we can give Kirstie Alley a pass. I think she did okay as a I'm sorry, what was she? No, she was she Klingon? Romulan? I get them mixed up. Yeah, she was Klingon. No.
Vulcan.
Go. Sorry, it's getting a little late. Now, interestingly, Kirstie Alley, after this movie, became famous for Cheers, and I thought she was always great in that role. And even before either of these, she was on Match Game. There's an interesting, find it on YouTube. She shows up just as a regular person on Match Game as a contestant. Of course, Gene Rayburn and others are smitten by her. But it's funny how a lot of celebrities actually end up getting their start on game shows. Now, I think DeForest Kelley we can credit with the funniest line of the movie, as Kirstie Alley is piloting the Enterprise out of space dock. He asks the captain, "Would you like a tranquilizer?" W5EBB.
November 5 Sierra, Quebec Alpha. I saw the film many years ago when it came out. I don't remember much about it. I just, you asked for check-ins. I'm checking in to say hello for about 15 minutes, and I'll just go back to listening. But thank you for letting N5SQA.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike.
November Victor 5, Foxtrot.
EBB.
Hey, that's QE.
Well, first, a personal comment. This was the first movie that I ever saw where I got intrigued by the fact that the one black character died before the white characters did. It's like, oh, isn't that an interesting thing? I didn't know what the word trope meant. I didn't think about that. I just thought, isn't that odd? I think I can think about other movies where that happens too. So that was a little bit of personal growth that happened. That's a stereotype they did engage in. But on a positive note, I was just doing some Wikipedia reading there, and apparently James Horner has been accused of a lot of score reuse and a lot of imperfections artistically. But I really think the score suited this movie very well. We didn't ever have the Psycho String Quartet screeching, nor did we have annoying electronica going on. I mean, I love electronic music, but when you try to be too fashionable, it doesn't age well. Instead, when things got scary, the score just got busier. That we had very short, repeated themes, and that emphasized the tension. And I thought that the score has aged very well. NT5TM.
Okay, I have a couple things, but I'll try to keep it brief. I'm going to jump off of what Tony was saying about Horner and the score. This was like one of his first major film scores, and they couldn't afford, their budget was so tight they couldn't afford Goldsmith again, so they got Horner, and they got him for a song. They kind of discovered him. I'm not saying this is the first great thing he did, but this was one of his early big things. So let's see, also on budgets, the effects in this are great. It holds up beautifully. I'm still always amazed at how early to mid 80s practical effects, post Star Wars, because things like 2001 and Star Wars pushed the envelope on effects, and then people were really doing such a fantastic job, and it's just, all the nebula stuff is beautiful, all the ships look great. I would go with the theory that the Genesis planet was created from the material from the nebula, because as soon as that would be my take on that. But anyway, I think overall this movie is just still really easy to watch. I think the silliest thing was that somehow Starfleet, with all their technology and record keeping and all that, couldn't figure out that that SETI Alpha 6 had somehow exploded, and that the planet they were on was actually SETI Alpha 5. So I actually think that was the silliest thing in the plot, like that they were somehow unaware of what planet they were on. But I will say this, and I was saying this to somebody the other day, the state of the art for making movies now is so hyper detailed and so computer generated, and they have lost all sense of color and beauty and cinematography and giving something real atmosphere, and I really don't care if I don't want anything to trick me. I don't want a movie to trick me into thinking that I'm looking at real life. I don't mind if it looks like a movie. I don't mind if I know I'm watching a movie, And I was saying this to somebody the other day. I don't mind if it looks like a movie, if it's good. And that goes back to what I think Sean was saying about, the plots, the stories for things. I always know, I'm watching a movie, or it doesn't matter how big the budget is, as long as the story's good and the characters are good and I care about them. Yeah, it's nice if everything looks real good, and generally things back then did, and So anyway, this is one of those movies. It's a good movie. Thanks for picking a winner in V5F.
Why do I get the feeling that for a they're picking a winner for a Okay, next up is David, WSIDED. Go ahead.
Thanks, Tom, for running the net. Yeah, James Horner, I think, did a great job with this soundtrack and score. Great orchestration. There's no doubt that this is a real orchestra. This is a real score. This is not some armchair composer playing virtual instruments. This is the real deal. And the theme for Star Trek II is very recognizable and unique for this movie. You know what movie it is when you hear it. And I have to give credit to Paramount for not releasing any special editions to any of the Star Trek movies. We don't need them, and the original versions are just fine as they are, and those are the ones we love, and keep them as they are. Disney and Lucas, are you listening? W5EBD.
Let me just say that I think Virginia and Tony, and I think it's Brenda, said things that make me wish I could retract some of the things I said. Some really insightful things. I think that this movie was a good, solid movie, and some of the Star Trek movies aren't. Some of them are silly. Some of them just have plots that don't make any sense. This one was a really good, solid movie. The soundtrack I thought was good. The special effects was good, so anyway, in general, and by the way, the costumes were good. I thought Ricardo Montalban in the opening scene on the planet where he had this kind of dune suit with blue stripes in it was really very pretty. And anyway, I thought it was I'll say it's my first or second First Contact, maybe my first favorite, but it was a great movie, and I thought that it went well, and everything they put together was very well done. Over.
KB9 is okay. Yeah, this KB9 is okay, and yeah, I'm going to kind of rehash a little bit what was said. Just once again, the music made such a difference, and I was reminded of this week I was watching the latest Star Wars things with the Alkalite, and they had the lightsaber fights, but something just didn't feel right. And then I was sitting there and watching it and noticed there was no music. There was no sound there. You know, you didn't have that intensity like you did in the actual movies. You know, that's something they, you know, that series they spent $200 million on, and it's like, you know, it just didn't feel right without the music playing as they battled. So yeah, in this film, it was nice to see that. Yeah, as things got more dramatic, the music got more dramatic and picked up pace. It just makes such a difference, and I really wish that modern movie makers would go back to that. But that's about it. Enjoyed it. Looking forward to next week. Back to net. KB9SOK.